Alcohol has taken everything from me. Alcohol has been my everything for a while. I am mourning the loss of my relationship with alcohol. Today I drank because I didn't get the job that I wanted. I don't know who I am without alcohol. I wrote all of this while under the influence on January 10th of 2018. This is the face of addiction. Hi guys, it's Amanda. So today's video is definitely a bit heavier of a video, and to be honest, it has been really hard to even get to the place of sitting here, but I'm so grateful, and I do feel that it's important to share with you all a very real struggle that I had, which was my battle with alcohol addiction. So today I'm going to be sharing with you all the journey of how I was able to overcome that, and I'm going to be sharing pretty candidly, so I would not suggest like any children watching this video. I'm just going to try to keep it as real as possible, and really the hope is that this will be able to help some of you out there who are currently going through this. Maybe you've battled with this in the past and it keeps coming up. I just want you to know that you're not alone and you can totally get out of this. I'm gonna go ahead and just get started right from the beginning. For myself, I started drinking basically the last day of my freshman year of college. And there were a couple of factors that went into this decision, one of which I was involved with someone, and there was a pressure in that relationship to drink. Also, even though my friends didn't necessarily like pressure me into drinking, which I'm actually super grateful for, there was the reality that there was always drinking when we were going out. They were drinking, they were partaking, and I think I just got to the point where I was curious and I really just wanted to see what was up, what's going on with this. And so I decided to try it out, and to be honest, I really liked it at first because it felt like I was free. You know, it felt like I could calm down and just relax and be myself. And that was my first experience. So, you know, I continued to do this. There was really no point where I could have predicted that things would have gotten so far, which I think is the scary part. And looking back, because eventually I did look back, I could see that even early on there were some very real consequences that I had. Multiple encounters with the police, one of which unfortunately was because my friend fell asleep behind the wheel while she was driving us home from the club, and we were both completely passed out in the car. It was crazy because even though these things were happening to me, it never occurred to me alcohol is a problem, because it was just normal. You know, everyone was doing it. We're college students. This is fun, whatever. It went from nothing to this was my lifestyle very quickly. I also noticed that when I drank, I didn't have to feel anything. And so it became a coping mechanism for me, just dealing with different rejections and hurts that I felt, specifically my relationships with men. And this was a pattern that continued throughout the whole time that I battled with addiction. So fast forward, when I moved to South Carolina after graduating, I was living with my family, and this was a new space for me. So I didn't really have any friends at first. I didn't know anybody. Alcohol almost in a weird way became a companion for me. I noticed that I was drinking more frequently, daily, more oftentimes alone than not. So then I started working. I actually got a job working in restaurants. I just wanted to make money quickly, and that's what I did. And so the culture of my life just became going to work, go out drinking with my coworkers, end up wherever, repeat. At this point, I also noticed that I was going to work intoxicated, even drinking during work, going to the extent of leaving work during my breaks and purchasing more alcohol. This is kind of where the double life began. I was really living a double life. Like on the outside, I was drinking socially with my friends, and that was normal, but on the inside, I have like this secret life where I'm drinking behind the scenes, running to the break room to go and chug a bottle of wine so I can go back to my shift. And so that was very, very scary. And when I moved to New York, it was basically to run away. I did move here to pursue my dream, which was to be a professional dancer. But it was also just running away from the hurt that I was experiencing just as a result of the consequences of my drinking, but also just running away from my addiction. And it definitely wasn't long before the same patterns came back. And this time it was way worse because I was broke when I moved to New York. It was not a planned situation. And so I started to see how far I would go to supply alcohol, even as far as prioritizing that above eating. Or, there were several times where unfortunately I would go to the bar alone with or without money. And the intent would be to find someone to purchase drinks for me. And however that ended up was however that ended up. Yeah, there were also several times during this period of my life where I considered taking my own life. And one of those times, my mother actually had to call the police to physically remove me from my home and take me to the hospital. So I'm actually really grateful for my mom. She actually tried to help me. She invited me to come back home and basically start over, start fresh, and just kind of get my life together. And it sounded really good, but even when I moved back home, things continued to progress, unfortunately. And in my mind, moving back home was giving up on my dreams. I got like a 9-to-5 job, and the drinking continued. And I would say at this point, I started to see that just very obviously my life was being controlled by something other than myself. And then I ran back to New York, again to start over, and the pattern just continued. So I would say when I moved back to New York the second time, that's when I really hit rock bottom. And then maybe a few months later, that's when I was heading out to meet my friends to go drinking, my life. And I got a text message from one of my dear friends who had been actually studying the Bible with me throughout this whole time. And she messaged me on my way out, basically sharing with me about the chemical recovery program that her church at the time, and now the church that I'm a part of, has. And the group actually was starting the next day at 8 a.m. So naturally, I was not about it when I first read the message, but after giving it some thought, I was like, you know what? This is your shot. Why not? Why not just try it and go? And so I did. I went the next day, and I actually had to work at 10 a.m. the next day. And the only reason why I was able to go to the group was because where we were meeting was walking distance, maybe like a 10-minute walk from my job. And that was day one of what's now been almost 2.5 years of complete sobriety, which is wow. I'm so shocked when I think about it. I battled with addiction for about 3.5 years. And there were several times, as you can imagine, where I tried on my own to stop. I think the most I could get through was a week. And even with that, it was typically something else I would go to instead, like smoking marijuana or cigarettes. So yeah, I knew that God was the only way that could have worked. Just to share a little bit about what CR is, you have to completely commit to sobriety, and you write a journal outside of class, which is basically sharing about each different account of when you use. Then bring your journal back to the group and you read it to the women in the group. And they're able to just basically point out different patterns that they see in your journal, and they really go after addressing the character issues that they see with scripture. For me, it revealed the root of the drinking, that I deep down did not believe that I could ever be loved by anybody. And I didn't want to feel that. I decided to just be numb. And that was how I chose to deal with it. And I would say the biggest thing that I learned, that I can have a full and wonderful life going to God and not these different substances. And so that was really huge. One of the biggest things that I learned was that for the past, since I basically started drinking, I really didn't know how to feel things. I really didn't know how to like experience emotions in a healthy way. And I didn't realize like, oh, you can actually experience this. You can have anxiety, you can have fear, you can be happy, you can be sad, but you don't have to go to something to numb it out. You can actually deal with it. You can bring it to God. And I would actually love to share a scripture with you guys that really helps me, and still does all the time, but it's in the book of John, chapter 8, verses 31 and 32. And it actually says, to the Jews who had believed him, Jesus said, if you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So this scripture has been monumental in my journey with sobriety, because it really helped me to understand that living my life God's way was the only way to reveal the truth, really the root of my drinking problem, but also set me free from being captive to that. And anytime you're in addiction, it's a feeling of captivity. Like, you know that your body is not your own, your mind is not your own. And so, yeah, I was so grateful for this, and I wanted to leave you all with that. If there are any of you out there who are like, okay, what is this truth? How do I get to know this? I actually would love for you to reach out to me. I'm going to link my contact information below, and any questions that you have about my journey, please reach out as well. But that's it. That's actually it for today. Thank you all so much for watching. I know this was a bit of a longer one. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.